Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I will do Act 3, Scene 3 of John LARA'S The Samaritan. And here, we realize that the main thing that happens is that Ian Jaden, who is the principal judge of Maracas, has been blackmailed. And just a snapshot of the plot. The scene begins when Bembe, who is the Inspector General of Police, gives what I call a cry of doom. He says that he is doomed, and that one brings him out as pessimistic. That is on page 99. And he is even contemplating being homeless and going to jail. So that pessimism, that hopelessness and despondency is what permeates the first page of scene 3. And that is why we have as a theme pessimism. Then, secondly, Honorable Mossi Tunya, who is the mayor of Maracas Municipality, seems to be upbeat. He is resilient, as you can see here, when he tells Bembe that this is always the nature of war and that they need to fight on and they don't need to lose hope. And that is why he is optimistic. He says that there is still a way that they can maneuver through the problems that they have. Then, Honorable Mossi Tunya, the mayor, hopes to cash in on the maize scandal that Ian Jaden had been involved in. That is, after Inspector Bembe has said that the only keys to their survival here is Ian Jaden, who is the principal judge of Maracas Municipality. And that is metaphorical. He uses a metaphor to say that Ian Jaden is the key to their survival at this point. That metaphor here. When he says that Jaden hopes to blackmail Ian Jaden into siding with him, and that blackmail registers later on when Jaden arrives in the jungle room of the Madingo Golf Club, where this particular meeting is taking place on a Monday afternoon. And he hopes to remind Ian Jaden of his involvement in what is called the Rodent Gate affair. So we discover, that is from Mossi's statement, that Ian Jaden and his long-standing mistress, and you know that one brings him out as immoral. He has a long-standing mistress that is called Ivy. So Ian Jaden and his long-standing mistress Ivy have what is called the Prime Orchard Farm. And in the Prime Orchard Farm, Ivy had at one time approached Mossi or Tunya of a tender of killing rodents and rats that had ravaged the rice and corn farms. At that point, Mossi says he had not received any reports that there was the challenge of the rodents and the rats in the farms. Then, second, after some time, people reported that there were rodents and rats ravaging and wreaking havoc in the rice and corn farms. And no sooner had the people reported than Ivy once again reported to him that he wanted this tender. So, being a long-standing mistress to a senior officer in the cadre of Ian Jaden, he allowed it. But when it was taken to the municipality chambers, it was shot down that the bidding ought to have been competitive. But then, Ivy very fast ran to court. And in getting to court, it was Ian Jaden who had and determined the case. And Ian Jaden said that in such a moment, single sourcing was permissible because of the extent to which the rodents had ravaged the rice and corn farms. And Mossi says that the rodents and rats are kind of bred in the prime orchard farm. And the end game is that Ivy and the co-owner, Ian Jaden, intend to undermine the local production of corn because they are the greatest importers of corn. So they are really doing this, that is the breeding of the rodents and rats deliberately. And that one brings out Ian Jaden as corrupt. So this is what Monsieur Tunya aims to cash in on. And he reminds Ian Jaden that remember the rodents, remember the rats, so that Ian Jaden can budge to his desire of Ian Jaden helping him to convict Honorable Ramadaye, to convict Honorable Seymour, and to convict Honorable Ted in an attempt to derail his ouster motion. And that is really what Honorable Mossi is planning. And things fall into plan when finally Jaden agreed to that. Then the last part of the plot in this scene is Jaden's soliloquy of regret. There is an aspect of style called soliloquy, and that is on page 112, when a character remains on stage by himself, speaking to himself. Then we say the aspect of style there is soliloquy. So in the soliloquy, Jaden regrets his involvements in the prime orchard farm and the vertebrate pest control, and he also confesses that those who have been lodging cases, the litigants, have been paying him so that he can always determine cases to their favor. He kind of validates Moses' accusations to be true, adding credence to his being corrupt. Basically, that is the plot of Act 3, Scene 2. Now let's look at some of the character traits of the various characters. There are some that we have already talked about. Beginning from Mossi. Mossi is resilient. We had said that on page 99. He is also optimistic, as evidenced on the same page. He is violent, seen on page 101 and 102. They are planning to wreak havoc in the Artable Stadium, where Honorable Ramadaye and his team are going to meet so that they can kind of isolate Honorable Mossi from the rest of the people as they go on with their ouster plans. He is also a blackmailer, trying to threaten Ian Jaden with the exposure of his involvement in the Rodengate affair, or Honorable Jaden to help him to jail the people on the Honorable Ramadaye's function. He is also corrupt because he wants to bribe Justice Ian Jaden into convicting the people on the side of Honorable Ramadaye. Again, he is also sarcastic when in page 106, Ian Jaden asks if they are trying to intimidate him. He says that the only thing they're talking about is about rodents and rats. For Bembe, Bembe is pessimistic on page 99. Then he is regretful on page 100. Through an aspect of style called flashback, he takes us through how he arrested Nicole, that is Friday the previous week, and when he arraigned her in court just on the morning of this Monday, people, touts, and all categories of people came to be in solidarity with her. And then even the generator that he had accused Miss Nicole of stealing, he has realized that it was not stolen. So he has kind of been left with an egg in his face, and he is ruining that action. He's also resigned, as seen on page 100, when he says that the only thing that now remains is that he wants to run to the mountains and maybe dig a certain hole and live there. And that is hyperbole or exaggeration to see the extent to which Bembe is regretful. Is also violent, as in page 101, being privy to the information that the Ramadaye's faction are regrouping and they will be at Atobol Stadium on Wednesday. He gives Mossi his word that he's still going to plan the ghetto boys to give backup to the Red Eagle gang. He's going to give them broken glasses, he's going to give them mattresses to burn, and all sorts of violent things as had been experienced before. Jaden is proud, page 102, 103, 104, 105. He cuts a figure of someone who is principled, who is thorough at his work, who is strategic. But then there is some element of irony, because at the end of the day, he himself confesses in his soliloquy that he has been involved in corruption. So, inasmuch as he proudly boasts of having a good upbringing and being thorough in his work, a man of integrity, we realize the quite opposite of what he says. He's also immoral. His involvement with Ivy, his long-standing mistress, and again, he's also corrupt, as we have explained on his involvement in the Rodent Gate affair, as well as allowing the litigants to pay him so that he can determine their cases in the favor of the litigants. Aspects of style, there is soliloquy, as we've seen on page 112. There is personification, 109, 110, and 107. There is also Moses sarcasm on page 107. There is metaphor. Metaphor that is seen is when Mossi or Tunya tells Ian Jaden that he cannot take a bullet for him, meaning he cannot suffer in his stead. And when he fails to intervene in his ouster motion, then he will also expose him. That is what he metaphorically means when he says that he cannot take a bullet for him. Again, there is also simile. We are told that Honorable Mossi, on hearing that the Honorable Ramadaye's faction are regrouping, he rises just like one who is stung by a bee. There are a range of idiomatic expressions when Honorable Mossi Tunya says that Ian Jaden needs to convict Ted, Seymour, and Ramadaye because they have been cutting some corners. That is an idiom. Honorable Bembe also says that he needs to clear the air. Honorable Mossi Tunya also wishes to use the maize scandal on Ian Jaden so that he can play ball. Those are some of the idioms that have been used there. There is also the use of hyperbole or exaggeration on page 101 and 100. And then lastly, there is irony that we've talked about. There, being the characterization, plot, and aspects of style, the major themes here are corruption, as we have explained. There is blackmail, Mossi to Ian Jaden. There is hypocrisy on the part of Ian Jaden. He pretends to be this thorough person. He pretends to be someone who is moral, but is the exact opposite of that. There is optimism on the part of Mossi, that there is a way that they will maneuver out of their problems. There is pessimism, as seen in Bembe. Then lastly, there is the misuse of power. Ian Jaden has confessed to having used his position to gain more wealth when he accepts bribes from the litigants. Again, Honorable Mossi or Tunya also hopes to use his power to convict and jail his opposers. That is Honorable Ramadaye's function. Viewers, that is basically the analysis of Act 3, Scene 3. Next time we meet, we will begin with the last act of this text, that is Act 4. Until then, nice time.